Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the YFAC today. My name is Amanda Quist. I teach in the visual art majors here at Bethany, and I'm very excited that you're here, and I'm excited for this show. This is the Spring 2023 Graphic Design Senior Capstone exhibit. So we're... You are going to be hearing from 4 students today, 4 seniors, and we're going to be hearing from Skyler Cotton, Emily Dietz, Ben Miklasz, and Brady Kappel. They're speaking in the order of food, facts, fiction, the subject matter for tonight's exhibit, and the title of the show. Something that's very cool and very much connected with that is the pop-up library that has been curated by Emily Frank, did I get that name right, in the library, who has chosen some publications like, let me hold this up, Coffee Made Her Insane, and At the Water's Edge, which is about the Loch Ness Monster. These publications are specifically connected to the subject matter and the content for each of these projects, which is very cool. The format that we're going to do tonight is that each of these students is going to come, they're going to give a talk accompanied by slides about their projects, then they will all return, and that's when you're going to have the opportunity to ask them questions either individually or questions for the whole group. After that, we'll take down the chairs and have a reception. So, without further ado, let's start things off with Skyler Cotton.
Hello, my name is Skyler Cotton. I'm from Grand Meadow, which is a very small town in southeast Minnesota. When coming to Bethany Lutheran College, I knew that I wanted to pursue a major in the art department. When I was younger, I remember always doodling in classes or just when I was bored. In high school, the art classes were my favorite, and I always looked forward to that time of the day. I could just be creative and let my mind run free. I had the artistic freedom to create whatever I wanted. When I toured the college here, I was able to learn about the graphic design department and was drawn to it right away. I've enjoyed being able to create things in class and experiment with different programs. So besides majoring in graphic design, a huge part of my college experience here at Bethany Lutheran has been being a student athlete and playing basketball the last 4 years. Being a former college athlete, this meant very long days of school, practice, and games that caused me to constantly be busy and always in need of energy. I always found it difficult to find the time to make food or eat enough to fuel my body throughout the day, whether that be meals or snacks. Diet is an important part of being an athlete because of the number of calories you lose each day. Your body needs the right nutrition to be properly fueled. I was never educated about what I should or should not be putting into my body, so my goal for my senior capstone project was to create a recipe book specifically for college athletes to help them if they are going through the same situation. I decided to name the recipe book Food for Fuel. Its main focus is on healthy, quick, and protein-based recipes. The goal is to provide the body with food to help an athlete be successful and perform to the best of their ability. For the Food for Fuel logo, I wanted to combine both the food and sports aspects of it, and so I decided to illustrate a spiral-bound recipe book and a basketball. The left logo is stacked and it is used on the front cover of my recipe book. And then for the recipe cards, the logo on the right is used on those, and it's also used on the back of my recipe book. I wanted the book to be appealing to both males and females, so I opted for a warm color palette of mostly browns and oranges. The dark brown on the far right is the main color that I used for all the text inside the book, and the gray next to it is used for the lines used to separate things in the book. These 2 colors are also used in the main logo. The colors seen on the left, which are the orange tones, are to differentiate the sections of the book and for the recipe cards. I've created a booklet with 66 pages. This is the cover of the recipe book, and my idea was to make it look like a collage using the food photos that I took. I used my own photos, and before I came up with what I wanted to do for my capstone project, I knew I wanted to include photography in some way because photography has been a passion of mine, and I have my own photography business as well, so I know I wanted to include that. And here are some photos that I use as some inspiration. I hadn't really done food photography before, besides in my Photo 2 class I took here at Bethany. So after a couple trial and errors of taking the photos, I came up with a new vision where I wanted them to be bright with a white background. And all the food is arranged on a white plate or bowl, and those are placed on a towel or placemat. Some of the foods also have an accent of a gold fork, and my goal was to make the photos vibrant, young, and trendy. And then the book has recipes for snacks, breakfasts, and entrees and desserts. And then the pages of each section seen here have their own color to section them off. The sections are also broken up and color-coded in the contents page in the front to help keep it organized and easier to find certain recipes. For the recipes, I wanted them to be laid out in a way that made it easy for someone to read and follow along. The prep time, cook time, and serving sizes are all at the top under the title. I sectioned off the ingredients and directions from each other to make them easy to scan over. Some of the recipes, like these two shown, also have a nutrition fact included about how one of the ingredients fuels the body to help educate students about eating well. Then the recipes that I took photos of have the photo placed next to them. I decided to also include the About page at the end of the book to make the recipe book more personal and relate to my experiences as a college athlete. And apart from the recipe book for Graphic Design 4, I also created recipe cards and a website that I wanted to include for my capstone. The recipe cards, I wanted to kind of be the same layout as the book, so I used the same lines to section things off with the title, the prep time, cook time, and serving sizes, and the ingredients all on the front, and then the directions are on the back. I used the same for colors to separate the sections and added a tab in the right top corner to inform what type of recipe it is. When designing my website, I wanted it to be very simple and easy to use. Most websites you go on to look at recipes have so much information and the whole life story of the creator, which can get very annoying when you're trying to just figure out the ingredients or follow the directions. I wanted to eliminate all that extra stuff and just get right to the point. I followed the same color palette for the website and used the same layout for the recipes. I also included the food photos again on the home page and then on this section of each page. And then for my video portion, I decided to do TikTok videos of me making 10 of the recipes. It took me a whole day to make all the food and film everything at the same time, but luckily my sister was kind enough to help me with it all. I decided not to talk throughout them and to just put music instead. So here is one of the TikTok videos I've made of the blueberry muffins recipe. In closing, I wish that I had a recipe book like this for my college career as a student athlete. I was motivated to create something that could benefit others in a similar situation and help them achieve their goals. Thank you.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Emily Dietz, and for those of you who don't know me, I'll start with a little bit about who I am. I'm a senior here at Bethany, obviously, a graphic design major and a communication minor, and I am also the layout editor of The Scroll, which is the student newspaper here. I love spending time with my friends, family, and boyfriend, as well as reading, baking, listening to music, going to concerts, traveling, photography, and drinking coffee. To explain why I'm a graphic design major, we have to go way back to my freshman year of high school. This was my first year at the school, and I had almost successfully made it through my first semester when they gave me my new schedule for my second semester. They had switched some of my classes and put me in one called multimedia. I went home to my mom and complained, told her I wanted to get my schedule fixed because I barely even knew what the class was, I didn't know the teacher, I wouldn't have any friends there, and I definitely wouldn't even like the class. Shout out to my mom, because she nicely told me to suck it up and try it out. And that class is the reason that I'm here today. In multimedia, we worked on creating the yearbook. So during my time in the class, I fell in love with page layout, which allows my perfectionistic side to run wild. By my senior year, I was the editor of the yearbook, and I was participating in an independent study on learning Adobe Photoshop. I learned the basics of the program and other fun techniques, and here's some of my work. I finished off my independent study by completing a huge project along with my advisor. We worked to replace the random 10-year-old posters that were in our school hallways with new posters that I designed to match our school's image and to promote the things we cared about, like accountability, character, and many more. This was an incredible opportunity for me, and it was just the start of my time as a designer. This part of the story doesn't have much to it, so I'll keep it brief. I heard about Bethany from my family, who brought it up to me early on in my college search. I had attended small religious schools my whole life, and I was excited that Bethany would be able to offer me the same religious atmosphere, tight-knit community, and relationships with mentors that I knew I loved, all while being not too far away from home. I visited a couple of times, sat in on Andy Overin's Graphic Design 2 class, talked to a recent design graduate, and was sold, so here I am today. As a freshman, I enrolled as a graphic design major, and even though most people change their majors at least 3 times during their college career, I knew I had found my place when I took my first design class with Amanda. I loved it and have thoroughly enjoyed all of my design classes since, and I've been blessed with some incredible opportunities throughout my time here. On the screen is some of my work from various design classes, as well as my internship with the visual communication department here on campus. So I honestly went into the fall semester with no idea what I would do for my capstone, but as all capstone students do, I started brainstorming with a list of things that I like. Amongst things on my list, like Harry Styles and dogs, was coffee. As I was evaluating my list, I remember seeing the word coffee and thinking to myself, Emily, you don't even know anything about coffee. The main reason that I didn't know anything about coffee was because proper resources are essentially non-existent. When you look online, there are hard-to-read infographics that don't explain things enough, and there are tons of blogs and websites about coffee, but they usually contradict each other, or they're written as if the reader has prior knowledge. I had tried to learn about coffee before and had no luck, so I knew that in order to actually learn anything, I needed simple, easy-to-understand materials. I realized that the best way of delivering this information to people is through a coffee shop, where they can feel comfortable and be able to try coffee as they learn. So I created a coffee shop for beginners and those who want to experiment with coffee. It is a place where it is okay to not know, to have questions, and to need help. I chose to name my coffee shop Spilling the Beans, which not only refers to coffee beans, but also the well-known phrase that means revealing information. I created the logo, which uses the shape of a coffee bean and a fun, informal font to communicate friendliness and a level of comfortability. However, the rest of the information is displayed in the sans serif font, which is a very modern font and gives a more reliable look for the informative content. I also chose a predominantly blue color scheme because it gives a sense of calm and relaxation, which is important for those who are trying to learn. And I used brown as an accent color and for most of the text. partially because it represents coffee, but also partially because it gives a sense of dependability. Based off of this logo and the blue color scheme, I created the blue bean icon, which is used as a consistent and important artistic element throughout the brand's materials. Finally, I wrote the mission, which explains the brand's desire to help people learn more about coffee, as well as the tagline, because coffee shouldn't be confusing. Because it shouldn't be. The first piece of the project is the booklet titled The Drinks. This was one of my very initial ideas and was one of the first things that I tried to make, but is actually one of the very last things that I completed. I started with this booklet because I felt that it was very foundational for my brand, but I struggled for weeks working on a booklet that just didn't feel right. Here you can see some of the initial progress pictures where I was just really struggling with it. I finally moved on and came back to it during second semester, and by that time, I had an excellent sense of my brand and was able to create something that I loved. This booklet includes 12 of the generally most common drinks that are on coffee shop menus. Each drink has a dedicated spread where a full rundown of the drink is presented with the name, pronunciation, ingredient breakdowns, how it tastes, details about how it is made, and a fun fact. I also designed a simplistic and appealing image for each drink to illustrate the ingredients and to give a loose idea of what the drink might look like. This booklet would be available for customers to take and read as preparation for ordering or as a general tool for learning. The most important aspect of it is the information about how the drink tastes, because this is often missing from other materials, but is a crucial part about remembering and understanding different drinks. For example, the latte's How Does It Taste section says, it is a rich, creamy, and milky drink. Since there is more milk than espresso, it has a more subtle coffee taste. Having this information for each drink makes it much easier to understand what a drink is like and gauge whether you'd like to order or not. Next, I created a series of 4 infographic posters which would be hanging on the coffee shop walls as a resource for people to come in and read before they order or while they enjoy their coffee. The first poster is Drinks, which is essentially a condensed version of that booklet. It also has each of the 12 drinks, along with the illustrations and labels, as well as a short description of how they taste. There are many posters with similar concepts out there, but again, I felt that the taste explanation was an incredibly important aspect that is often missing from these other resources. Next is the roast poster, which is an explanation of light, medium, and dark roast beans, which are different types of coffee beans that can be purchased. Each roast is explained, including its consistency, acidity, and typical flavors. Finally, it touches on the complicated topic of caffeine, including the myth and the real truth about it. This is both a great way to educate the customers and help them feel confident enough to purchase their own beans, such as the one that Spilling the Beans sells. Third is the flavors poster, which explains 9 flavors that are commonly added to coffee drinks. Oftentimes, many flavors are listed on a menu with no additional information, so it's hard to know how they would taste in a drink. For example, peppermint is described as a subtle, sweet flavor that has a minty, cool sensation that pairs well with chocolate flavor and sets off the bitter taste of dark roast coffees. This poster in particular was one that stretched my abilities, as I wanted the icons to match the brand's simplistic style, but also represent the flavors well. I landed on this simplified gradient style, which I love, but it was definitely a challenge to work in such a style because I don't have that much experience with it. In the end, I'm very, very happy that I pushed myself and am incredibly proud of how they turned out. The final poster explains how to order at a coffee shop. This is another aspect that can be super intimidating, since it often feels like everyone already knows exactly what to say and how to say it. I created this infographic so that people could learn how to order in a seamless and easy way. It goes through the steps of ordering, the size, style, drink, milk, and flavor, along with an example of exactly how to phrase it for the barista, which is, can I please have a medium iced latte with whole milk and caramel flavor? I also loved making this poster because it was very fun to create the icons, and it was a unique challenge to try to summarize so much information in a manageable way. I also created packaging for Spilling the Beans coffee beans. Designing packaging was very exciting for me as these packages actually became the base to the whole brand design. The first design is an interpretation of the brand name, a literal depiction of beans that are spilling. This design is for the regular line, which includes one of each of the 3 roast types, named Spilling Blend, Meant to Bean, and Beaning of Life. The second package has a more abstract design, which uses the signature bean in a different way. This design is used for a line of flavored coffee, which includes French vanilla, salted caramel, and blueberry. Another part of this packaging that I love is the back, where every aspect about the beans is explained, such as the roast type and flavor. For example, the French vanilla package says, the French vanilla flavor is subtle, but adds a creamy and slightly sweet touch. This type of information is often missing from many mainstream packages, but including it gives the consumer the power to understand what they are buying and what they like. Next, I made merchandise, which is a quintessential aspect of a coffee shop. I pulled a lot of inspiration from the packaging designs, which help the brand stay cohesive and recognizable. I designed both a simplistic line, which uses the logo and main brand colors, as well as a more creative line with the abstract bean design. Finally, I created an app for spilling the beans. This app is a combination of multiple other aspects that I had already made. There's a page for each piece of merchandise, as well as details about the product. There are also pages for each of the drinks, which have the same information as is in the booklet, as well as a function that allows the user to rate the drink using a 5-star system. This is a great way for people to try new things and keep track of what they thought. Finally, there's a page that reiterates the how to order information so that the user has easy access whenever they need assistance. This app was a great way to cap off the project as a whole because making everything more accessible through technology is the best way for it to reach even more people. Although this app is not real, I did create a complete functioning prototype for it, so please feel free to check it out on the iPad that's by my display. As you can see, there are many different aspects that are confusing about coffee, which can make it hard for anyone to learn anything about it. Therefore, spilling the beans, which strives to make learning about coffee easy, because coffee shouldn't be confusing. I would just like to end by saying thank you to my family, friends, professors, and everyone who's supported me on my journey throughout college and my design career. I couldn't have done it without any of you standing by my side. Finally, thank you, my audience, for listening to me and learning about coffee tonight.
Hello, folks. Thank you all for coming. My name is Benjamin Miklasz. My project is on the bubonic plague. There we go. To begin with, a little bit about me and why I am where I am today. I grew up in Wisconsin for most of my life and moved to Minnesota shortly before beginning high school. I went to Dassel-Cokato High School in Cokato, Minnesota. Growing up as a kid, I had always been into art in general, always making stuff at home, always drawing when I should be taking notes in class. But it was in high school where I realized how much I love digital art specifically. I've since been fascinated by the problem-solving aspect of digital design. You have to figure out all the things that work and figure out how to make all the things that work together in a piece. I took every art-related class that was available at my relatively small high school, including photography, Photoshop, and a digital illustration class. I was inspired and motivated by a great high school teacher. Thank you, Jeffrey Wells. I came here to Bethany partially because of its graphic design program. I had the opportunity to learn and create a lot more in a lot of different classes. I've gotten to do plenty of graphic design, digital illustration, a little animating, and to design some websites. While making the many designs I've made here, I've taken a liking stylistically to the intersection between levity and heightened drama. It's a tone that became very relevant while working on this project in particular. There we go. Being an officer for a club here on campus has given me a handful of opportunities to display my design skills by advertising for events as well as for the club itself. Working with fellow officers and friends and planning and advertising for events always makes for a very enjoyable challenge. For a couple years, I have also been designing for the campus newspaper, The Scroll, for making the center spreads. The chance to collaborate with the rest of the hardworking students who work at The Scroll, as well as regularly have my designs printed and distributed around campus, has been a great experience. All of this to say, I had never done any art related to the bubonic plague before, but it was one of my first picks when it came to choosing a topic for my capstone project. When I first started this class, I had recently read a wonderful book over the previous summer called A Time Traveler's Guide to Medieval England by Ian Mortimer. The book explored what life was like in the 14th century. It outlined the customs, foods, clothing, entertainment, and literature of the time. I enjoyed the book, and what stuck out to me most was how much the plague affected so many different aspects of the lives and the people living at the time. So I had done a little bit of research before I had even begun working on the project. After I chose the topic, I selected a series of more specific topics that I wanted to focus on. I wanted to include a variety of focuses, from facts about the disease itself, to how it was treated, to how it affected people's day-to-day lives. I wrote what I wanted to include on my posters, including more unbelievable and shocking things I had learned in my research, such as what buboes are and why people were rubbing dead snakes on them. Ew. I ended up with 6 posters, an animation, a small deck of trivia cards, and 2 fictional ads. Before I got too far into making those things, I had to make some choices concerning what I wanted the project to be like. One of the first decisions I made was to choose a series of colors that I would use throughout the project. I wanted to incorporate brighter colors to help bring more energy to the pieces. I did some experimenting to determine a series of colors that paired well with a dark earthy brown, a color I knew I would use somewhat liberally throughout the entire project. I designed a handful of different ideas for what people I depicted throughout the project would look like. I settled on this design seen here with large animated bobblehead look, reminiscent of modern 2D cartoons. I made my characters as cartoonish as they are to complement my somewhat specific tongue-in-cheek writing voice. I have been told a lot about how easy it is to identify something I've written. I chose a different approach when depicting animals, which I had to do somewhat frequently. I decided on these more complex, closer to realistic shapes with simple coloring. I had the posters printed on PVC. I designed a little logo for the cards and had those printed on cardstocks. I printed the ads before wetting them with coffee out of a spray bottle to make them look aged. One example of my elements is an animated infographic I made last semester. It is narrated, perhaps, by Bethany's own Ariana Rosberg. Please enjoy.
The bubonic plague is a bacterial infection that tore through Europe for around 300 years, and people tried just about everything to stop it. Most victims died within 8 days of showing symptoms, so they had to work fast. For centuries, physicians thought that the body consisted of 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. It was believed that disease was caused by an imbalance in these 4 humors. Too much blood or too little phlegm would cause people to be sick. Remedies to an imbalance included cold baths, which were prescribed to increase how much phlegm the patient had, or bloodletting with either leeches or cutting to get rid of the excess blood, or drug-induced vomiting to get rid of one of the vials. Surprisingly, the 4 humors are among the more sane theories that were tested. Other solutions included flagellation, tying a chicken to the diseased, rubbing pieces of a dead snake on the buboes, or cutting open the buboes and covering the cuts in a mixture that included human feces. With the benefit of time and technological advancements, we now know that the plague can be successfully treated with antibiotics.
The purpose of the project was not to comprehensively cover the topic of the bubonic plague, but to provide some of the more fun facts and, in doing so, hopefully inspire people to want to learn more about one of the most fascinating time periods in history. I hope you all learn a lot from mine and all of the projects displayed here today. Thank you for coming.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today to listen and support us all. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brady. I started going to Bethany back in 2018, and I really had no direction or idea like what major I wanted to pursue. After graduating high school, I never really planned on going to Bethany right away, or college right away. But my sister went a year prior, and a close friend encouraged me to come to Bethany, so I figured I might as well try and see how that goes. Finally, throughout my first couple of years in school, I switched majors multiple times and even schools once, but I was never confident or sure of what major to declare or why I should still be going to school. After taking a semester off, it was intimidating to switch majors to something I really had no experience in. But all my professors were very considerate and extremely helpful. After being encouraged to join the graphic design department, my last couple of years at Bethany have flown by and have been the most engaging and fulfilling since I've been at Bethany. That's just my artist statement. When deciding on a project in the beginning of last semester, I really had no idea what I wanted to do for it. One of the first assignments Amanda made us do was to write out a list of 100 things we liked and are interested in, and to base our projects off of that. After a while, I decided to base my project on cryptids from the Midwest. Cryptids, for those of you that don't know, are animals that haven't been proven to exist and are only known in folklore and local legends. Examples of well-known cryptids would be Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. This topic interested me because it incorporates where I'm from and a subject I've always found interesting. Cryptids in and of themselves are interesting and are a good concept for people's imagination. Part of the allure of cryptids is the thought that these creatures could potentially exist, but we just don't know for sure. I've always enjoyed hearing and reading accounts of people who have had cryptid encounters and are adamant that they saw these creatures. Many cryptids are simply misidentified common animals, so I thought it would be fun to try and capture some of those elements into my silhouettes. Once I decided on my topic, I started researching and coming up with designs for the cryptids. I knew right away that I wanted to go for a unified and simplistic design to tie them all together. When I took graphic design 2 a couple semesters ago, I created a mock logo for a camping company, and I based that logo on a camping Bigfoot. The logo inspired me to yet again make my illustrations similar to that silhouette. My first couple designs were a bit more playful, and I used green as an accent color. After a while, I decided against using that and instead make the figures solid black. Since using all black silhouettes could potentially be visually boring, I focused on making additional details like tufts of fur or holes in a dragon's wing. These details might not be obvious at first, but looking closer, you can see the specific characteristics that identify each creature. My initial plan was to make a field guide describing each cryptid, their habitats, their origins, and accounts from people supposedly witnessing them. I wanted to make the field guide look like an old, worn journal made by someone documenting them for the first time. Another concept I designed was a more modern, minimalistic look, but it didn't seem to fit the vibe of the cryptids. For my last concept of the field guide, I went back to the old journal look, but I was just trying to make it look more like a scrapbook that had been thrown together. I worked on that for a while, but making a booklet turned out to be not as fun as I hoped, and I decided to head in a new direction. Instead, I began to make stickers. I don't have any finished stickers to show you, so that shows how well that turned out. After quite some time and energy went into sticker making, nothing really turned out how I wanted, and some of my illustrations didn't fit very well for the cryptid design. For my motion graphics project, I used After Effects to animate my infographic using Illustrator. I tried to design my motion graphic piece similar to how I design my cards. I used the case files again, but this time had them opening up, having a bit more of a deep dive into the cryptids I chose.
What are cryptids? You've probably heard of Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and Chupacabra, some of the world's most famous cryptids. Animals that have been claimed to exist, but never proven to exist. Many animals today were once considered cryptids, but after identifying and studying them, they are now commonplace in the world. Let's take a look at a couple of cryptids from the Midwest that are interesting, but a bit lesser known. Found in the forests of the Great Lakes region of Minnesota, Wendigos are created when a person eats human flesh in order to survive the winter. Wendigos are cursed to wander the land and seek human flesh to survive. Wendigo psychosis is an actual disease named after the Wendigo, in which you start having intense cravings for human flesh and paranoia about becoming a cannibal. Founded in Illinois by the Ylvisaker tribe, they named it the Piasa bird, meaning the bird that devours men. Cave and cliff paintings have depicted this creature for centuries in the Mississippi River Valley. The Ylvisaker tribe feared the creature because it would swoop down and snatch livestock, but it eventually got a taste for humans. It had a head like a deer, red eyes, a beard like a tiger, a face somewhat like a man's, a scaly body, and a long tail that wrapped around the body 3 times, ending in a fishtail. Hailing from Loveland, Ohio, the Loveland Frogman is a 4-foot-tall bipedal humanoid frog with webbed feet and hands. They have the ability to use sticks as tools that emit electricity like a wand. The Frogman has only ever been spotted 4 times, once in 1955, twice in 1972, and again in 2016.
The next semester I was taking graphic design 4, and we were given the assignment to make some kind of trading or informational card. I thought this would be a great opportunity to pair my assignment with my capstone and make a trading card based on my cryptids. At this point, I already had quite a few illustrations finished, so the main challenge was to come up with research and information based on the cryptids. I found most of my information on old cryptid forums and websites that haven't been updated in years. For my cards, I decided to stick with the neutral color palette for the background, using only 4 different tints of brown to keep the designs unified and not overly complicated. The backgrounds I made are based on my research about the creatures and what environments they have been spotted in the wild. On the back of the cards, I separated characteristics of the creatures as well as I could into categories. Not all the categories have information that I could find for each creature, but I think that plays into the mystery of cryptids being relatively unknown. When creating my cryptid crime board, I researched and found many old newspaper articles pertaining to the selected cryptids. This step took a really long time because I had to get a subscription to a newspaper website with thousands of articles, search for articles about each creature, and then go into Photoshop and try to make the old articles appear brighter and more legible. Making the crime board was a fun change of pace for me, not just making everything digitally. And I actually got to cut out and pin all my materials like a collage. I was trying to emulate a classic crime board like in movies. There's some pictures. I would like to thank a couple people who have been influential with helping me throughout my time at Bethany. The main factor and reason for me deciding to join the graphic design major was Misha and Andy Overin. They have been such a blessing in my life and so beneficial in guiding me and making sure I stay on the right track. I'm very grateful to them, and they have helped me stay on track and focus. I would also like to thank all the professors that have been influential and pivotal in helping me get here today: Amanda Quist, Jason Jasperson, and Ben Lunston. They have all been super supportive, helpful, and offered to give advice and guidance outside of school hours. They put in a lot of time and effort, and they deserve more recognition for their hard work. Finally, I'd like to thank my parents and siblings who are always supportive. Thank you all for coming and listening to us today. Have a great night.
Someone leading this Q&A? Is that on us? Yeah, who wants it? Now what? Yes, please. Anyone?
I don't need the microphone, but that's so all of you, we're here to talk about graphic design, but every one of you described a project that probably took you, I don't need that, probably took you a couple of months to research, like you were doing a research project or something like that. So the question is, did that take the fun out of it? Is that what you expected to have to do? Or did you find it valuable?
Got something. I found it very valuable. I also thought it was very fun. Like I kind of mentioned, I had sort of started researching just out of interest before I even started doing the project. And yeah, it's a wild topic, and I had a great time with it.
I mean, I've always found cryptids to be fun, and so I mean, it was kind of tedious looking up information, and it did drag on for a while, but I still had fun throughout the process, I would say.
Yeah, like I said in my speech, I really didn't know much about coffee. So I knew going in that I would have to do research, and I was kind of happy about that because I knew I would learn about coffee, which I wanted to. I think definitely at times it was frustrating because, like I said, a lot of the resources out there kind of can contradict themselves, or there's not really a lot of set in stone information. So compiling stuff that I thought was true and made sense did get hard at times, but overall it was really enjoyable because I got to learn about what I wanted to learn about.
I also started researching before I started anything else, looking up different recipes and finding like which ones were protein based to help athletes. It was kind of hard, like figuring out which ones I wanted to do, kind of, but it was also fun to start that, and then everything progressed after that. Well, in graphic design 4, we had to create some sort of like cards to print out. So I decided to do recipe cards to go with my capstone just because I thought it'd be easier and to have something like visible and easy to look at when making a recipe. It took me a lot of tries to figure out how I wanted the design to be. And I was going to include like a photo like of a sports ball at first instead of the logo on the side, but it looked weird and I didn't think it would go good with food. And then I tried other colors, but I just decided to stick to the orange because I thought it looked best.
I would say I learned a lot about working with printers and advocating for your designs and what they're supposed to look like. First time I had my booklet printed, they didn't trim it right, so I had to go back and be like, hey, you didn't trim it right. And then they fixed it, and then it was like the wrong color. So I was like, hey, it's the wrong color. And as I said, I'm absolutely perfectionistic about that, so I had to be nice, but also be firm about this is what it's supposed to be, and this is what I want it to be, and so I had to be brave when talking to people about that. And yeah, I learned a lot about how, I mean, things are not the same from your screen to print, and that's hard sometimes, but you gotta figure that out as a designer and work your way through it.
Yes, a lot of that. Yeah, I sent in my cards to get printed, and I sent in the larger posters to SPX, and then worried about whether they would be done right until they came in, and they looked good.
I didn't have to do as much like printing from like a company as much as they did, but yeah, you just got to make sure your dimensions are right, and because you don't want to have to pay for it again. But yeah, no, that's about it.
Guess I can go first. That booklet was printed at Riverbend Business Products, which is here in Cato. And then my boards were all printed at SPX on PVC, which is also here in Cato.
My photos were printed at SPX in Mankato, and then my booklet was printed at Riverbend. And then I forgot where the cards were. MPC online, my cards are printed from.
I've got nothing new to add to that. Posters from SPX, playing cards from MPC.
My playing cards were also from the MPC. Personally, for me, I don't think I would like pursue it any further. It was just more like a fun hobby that I enjoyed doing.
Well, they care about you too.
Okay. Take it away.
I don't have any set in stone plans or anything about the coffee shop. I think it would be amazing if it was real. I genuinely think it would help a lot of people. I don't think I'm a super like business running oriented person. I don't have a lot of experience with anything like that, so I don't think that I would want to start building it from the ground up. But if I ever was able to walk into some sort of partnership sort of thing maybe, or have a deal with someone or something, there's potential there. I would probably want that, but no real plans at the moment.
I think I would be interested in selling the cookbooks or even the recipe cards, but I don't have anything like figured out yet if I want to for sure or not.
Yeah, my project was, I think, very niche, and I don't know if it has any more life beyond something fun online. I think infographics and page layout is something that was challenging, but I really enjoyed doing it, and I wouldn't mind doing that professionally at all.
Yeah, I thought the infographics really fun, or like logo design is something I've always liked doing in graphic design classes, but
I also really enjoy doing layout, so like my infographics were probably some of my favorite things to do. Like I said, I'm layout editor of the Scroll too, so that's something I think I'm very good at. So I'd like to do something with words and print and laying things out and finding places for things to go.
Like I said in my presentation, I have my own photography business, so I am for sure going to do that after college. And then I also am interested in doing web design and like logo design.
No, I drink lattes exclusively. Milky and sweet. I don't like going first. Okay.
It takes some time to figure out like what you actually want to do and work on for 2 whole semesters. So just sticking it out and deciding what you want to do for that long. And then it's also a lot of trial and error. So not getting frustrated and just keep pushing through.
Yeah, I would say I went into Capstone with a lot of worries about finding something that I would like to do for months, and something that I would be proud of. So I guess I would say you're going to worry about it, but try not to, because you will find something that you like and that you love. I highly recommend, if you're going to do something with research, that it be something that you want to learn more about. As I said, that was something that was really fulfilling for me and that helped me really like drive along my project. And also I got very passionate about my topic in the beginning. I was walking around talking to all of my friends being like, no one makes the right informational things for coffee. Like, I was freaking out about it. And that's how I knew that I was going to love this and that I really, really wanted to do it. So I think that's what I'd have to say.
Advice for Capstone specifically, picking something that you can stay interested in for months was really important, and something I worried about quite a bit at the beginning.
Yeah, I switched my concept a couple times, which I think it's okay to do. It's fun to pivot and try different things, and then make sure you get your stuff done beforehand, because then you won't be stressed as much at the end.
What's something that you take away from your time at Bethany as an artist? Like, what as an artist have you taken away from your time here? Carry into your after your
At risk of repeating myself a little, making sure that what you're creating is something that you're passionate about is, I think, very important.
I think during my time here, you get to do a lot of different projects in different classes. And by doing that, I think I really found my style and like who I am as a designer. I know that I like clean, modern, simplistic illustration, stuff like that. And so I know that that is what I'm good at and where I'm very comfortable. So I think it's nice to know that going into like a workplace, because then I know how I'll fit in. But it's also really good to be able to stretch yourself and design different things and do different projects and stuff. And I think that is something that really helps you become the designer that you are when you leave.
I would say being able to experiment in different classes and with different programs.
I was just gonna say, it's been really good for me to learn that it's okay to try different things, and even if it's not like a good first attempt, to keep trying, and that will build off of that and further, I don't know, into hopefully a good design.